All right, so taking a look at 4.3, so now we're kind of practicing what we've been doing from 4.1 and 4.2, but we're still using Carlos and Clarita, right? So they're worried about, so we dealt with space and the startup costs, okay? But now they have to realize that it's going to, deal with time as well. So two things they've dealt with. First is the feeding time. So Carlos and Clarita estimate that the cats will require 6 minutes twice a day, morning and evening, to feed and clean their litter box. So a total of 12 minutes per day for each cat. Dogs will require 10 minutes twice a day to feed and walk, for a total of 20 minutes per day for each dog. Carlos can spend up to 8 hours each day for the morning and evening feedings, but needs the middle of the day off for baseball practice and games. Okay, so let's just take a look at these, okay? Let's see what we're going to get here. So, again, think about how we did with space and with cost, is the total amount with the cats for X, okay, plus the total amount of the dogs, in this case time, with Y, is going to be less than or equal to what their limit is, that maximum. In this case, it's 8 hours for Carlos, okay? So, I know with 8 hours, that's going to be the maximum here. I also know that for my cats, it's 12 minutes a day, so 12 times X. For my dogs, it's 20, so 20Y, and we add those together. Okay, now there's an issue here, right? The issue is the fact that this is 8 hours, which I know is longer than 20 minutes and 12 minutes. The problem is 8 looks smaller than those two, so we need to change them to be the same amount of time. So instead of 8 hours, why don't we go in minutes? So 8 times 60 would give us 480 minutes. Okay, so there's one of those. Okay, now let's graph this. Okay, so looking at our graph here, again, this is cats and dogs. Okay, so we ended up with 12x plus 20y is less than or equal to 480. Okay, so a few different ways I can do this. First way would be to solve for y. Put it in slope-intercept form. So I'd get 20y is less than or equal to negative 12x plus 480. Then I divide everything by 20. I'd get y is less than or equal to negative 6 over 10. If we divide by 2, I can divide by 2 again, so 3 over 5. X plus 480 divided by 20 would be 24. Which means I'd start up here at 24, and I would go down 3 for every 5 to the right. Let's count by 2, so it'd be 2.5 boxes. Okay, so I can just go down like this. And this is one way I could do it. The other way I could have done this, and then draw my graph, and then recognize that, do they have to use all 480, all 8 hours? No, they could do less, so any of these points underneath would also be included since it's an inequality. The other way I could have done it is to say, what if I only had cats? Then I could give all those 480 hours to the cats, and I'd have 40, okay, which was right there. And then the same thing, I could say, what if I only gave that time to the dogs? If I only had dogs, and then I do the same thing, and that's where I'd end up with the 24. And so that would give me those 2 points right here and here, which I could then draw my graph. Okay? All right. So there's the feeding time constraint, right? All right. Okay, now let's take a look at pampering time. Okay. So, twins plan to spend 16 minutes each day brushing and petting each cat, and 20 bathing or playing with each dog. Clarita needs time off in the morning for swim team and evening for her art class, but she can spend 8 hours during the middle of the day to pamper and play with the pets. So between the two of them, right, 8 hours for each thing. So for the cats, again, the amount of time for the cats is 16 times the number of cats. For the dogs, it's 20 times the number of dogs. Added them together. We know that has to be less than or equal to the 480 minutes, which was 8 hours. Okay, so there's our other one. So now we look at the graph, and so we've got 16x plus 20y again is less than or equal to 480. Again, I can solve it and put it in slope-intercept form and then graph it like this. I'd get y is less than or equal to 16 over 20. If I divide by 4 would be negative 4 over 5x, plus 480 divided by 20 would be 24 again. Or I could take the other approach and say, what if I only had cats? Well, if I only had cats, then I would end up only being able to take care of 30 cats maximum. So I could put that on just the cats. And then for the dogs, we already did this one once, didn't we? We'd end up with 24. So up here. And then I could just sketch my line and remember that they don't have to use up all the time. So if they have less dogs and less cats, that would be represented by the shaded area. And now we've got both of them graphed and we can kind of take a look. They look pretty similar, don't they? Okay. But I think if we graphed them on the same page, we would realize that they do look slightly different. Okay, kind of like that. All right, guys, that's all we really had to do for that one, so there we go.